Welcome. My name's Tom Fenton. I work at the Roseville Public Library. We're really glad you could join us today. Today, as promised, I am going to teach you how to do a few magic tricks. I started doing magic when I was about 14 years old. A friend of mine asked me if I would like to go see someone do magic, and I walked in, and it was a similar table to this, and there was this guy doing things like this, and he was cutting the cards with one hand. There's all kinds of different things that you can do with cards. This is called sleight of hand. And so today, what I'd like to teach you is how to do a few of these things, and I'm actually going to give you the secret to 2 tricks. Now, one of the ground rules about magic, there's a couple of ground rules. 1, you have to practice a lot. 2, you never show anyone, your friends, your best friend, your parents, you never show anyone a trick until you have actually mastered the trick, okay? Remember that. You don't show anyone the trick until you've mastered it. And of course, the most important thing is practice, practice, practice. When I saw this magician for the first time, this was about 50 years ago, believe it or not, doing these different card tricks. One of the things that he was doing was he would turn over the top card, which was the 2 of diamonds, and he kept cutting the deck like that, and then the 2 of diamonds was still there. And it seemed like no matter what he did, he could always come up with the 2 of diamonds. And I thought that was pretty amazing. That's one of the things you'll learn as you learn about card tricks. Is one of the things you have to be able to do is you have to learn how to control the deck, control the top card, whether it's the 5 of hearts, to be able to cut the cards like that and still have the 5 of hearts on top, whatever it is. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, and we might get into that at this session, but we might do a different session and talk about some of those specific details. The other thing, after I was so excited about this magician that I saw who did all these incredible magic tricks, is the first thing I did is I went to the public library close to where I was. And you're going to notice if you come into our Roseville Public Library, you're going to notice we have a gigantic collection of magic books. Some of them are just basic card tricks, cool card tricks, card magic, magic tricks. This one is kind of a story about a magician. We have over 2 dozen. We have a really good collection of card tricks. So if after today you get excited about magic and learning how to do card tricks, you can come in and check out a few books. If I happen to be here, we could talk about card magic and how I got into it. But I think the most important thing is you just have to get started. It's always nice to have a friend to do these card tricks to or to practice with. We spent a lot of time, my friend and I, here's a particular trick that we used to always practice. See the 8 of clubs? If I toss it into the air just like that, very gently, it disappears, and then I can reach up into the air and have it come back. And that takes a lot of hours of practice. You don't just do that the first time. We would practice in front of a mirror, we would practice in front of each other, until we had it perfect. I'm going to show you a couple quick things first. There's one thing you should know. You should get a deck of cards. If you don't have a deck of cards in front of you, it'd be really helpful to have it while I'm doing these, because you can practice while I'm doing it. This is called a bridge deck. It's a little bit narrower. You can see if you have smaller hands, if you're younger and you have smaller hands, this would be the kind of deck that you might use. It's a little easier to cut the cards with one hand like this. These are all a couple of different ways you can cut the cards. There's also a poker-sized deck, which is a little bit thicker, and you'll notice it when you go to the store if you don't have a deck. It's a little bit thicker, they're a little harder to work with. So get yourself a deck of cards. Again, stick to the ground rules. You have to, don't show anyone the trick until you've mastered it. Don't tell anyone your secrets, except for, unless you're me, because today I'm going to tell you a couple of secrets. Okay? So, and make sure you go to your local public library. Our Roseville Library has a great collection of books, like the ones you see here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to teach you 2 tricks. I'm going to go real slowly, and I'll kind of walk you through it. Again, don't tell anyone how to do it, but practice, practice, practice until you feel like you can do it, and then you can show your friends. It's really pretty cool. The first trick we're going to learn is called the four ace trick. Of course, the first thing you're going to have to do is you have to pull the four aces out of the deck, which is easy. Just fan the cards, ace of spades, ace of hearts, ace of diamonds, and what's missing? Ace of clubs, right? So we have four different suits. Doesn't matter the order that you put them in, but you're going to need to have four different piles. Notice here that they're 1, 2, 3, 4 piles, and I'm going to, on top of each card, I'm going to place 3 cards. That's so simple. If you, in fact, I'm going to stop for 1 second right now. If you wanted to do this with me at the same time, you could. You could practice it. I have 4 aces, spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts, and on top of those cards, I have 3 cards. So altogether, 4, 4, 4, 4, we have 16 cards. Now what I'm going to do, and this is important, I'm going to collect each row just like that, just push them together. Okay? So the aces are still there, and then I'm going to take each pile and put them on top of each other. All right? And this is important. You're not going to shuffle the cards. You're just going to cut them. You're going to cut them as many times as it takes until you see, and I want you to peek. I'll show you how to do it without letting anyone know. You're going to keep cutting the cards until you see an ace is on the bottom. There's an ace on the bottom, but I'm not going to start the trick too quickly. I want to keep cutting it so they think I'm really shuffling the cards. Right now the ace of diamonds is on the bottom. So remember there were 4 rows and the aces had 3 cards on each one of them. So now if I deal the cards back out in 4 other rows, what you're going to find is that all 4 aces are in the 4th row. Now, I showed you because I'm teaching you how to do the trick. They don't know where the 4 aces are, do they? Because it's really a mathematical trick, right? Because the 4 aces were on top, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 cards were on top of each one. Then I put them all together, and I was cutting the cards. You keep cutting and until you see an ace on the bottom. Now, don't let them know that you're looking at the bottom card. You just kind of want to glance at it. And when you see an ace on the bottom, that means when you start dealing the 4th card, every 4th card is going to be the ace. So you know, you're the magician, you know that all 4 aces are over here. They don't know, they think they're all mixed in. Okay, now how do you get someone to pick a row? Well, it's not that difficult. I want you to pick, I want the person to think that they picked that row, because that's the row with the aces, right? I'm going to kind of force you to pick without really forcing you. So what you do is you say, pick, I want you to think of 2 rows. And let's just say they think of these 2 rows. That'd be great if they did. If they think of those 2 rows, you just take those rows away and you put them on the rest of the deck. Now you're just left with 2 rows, right? And one of the rows has aces in them, right? That's what we want to get them to get to. So let's say they pick these 2 rows. We would take those away. We'd put them over here. We say now we're left with 2 more rows. Now, if they pick this row and they say, okay, well, I want this row, we do the same thing. We take that row and we put it over here. And now what are we left with? We're left with the 4 aces. They don't know it. And then you just go tap on them and you turn them over. Now, what happens if here they pick the second time? What happens if they pick that row? If they pick that row without hesitating for a second, you grab the cards, you tell them to put their hand down, and you put the cards right in their hand, and you tell them to put their hand on top of it. And they won't realize what's just happened. You know, we didn't take that row. They actually picked that row, but you put this row in their hand. And then when you turn the cards over, they'll see that the 4 aces are there. It's very, very simple. It's called the 4 ace trick. All you need is a deck of cards, and locate the 4 aces. Once you have the 4 aces, you deal the 3 cards on top of them, You cut them very carefully, just like I showed you before, like this. But every once in a while, you peek at the bottom card without them knowing, and then when you see the ace on the bottom, you deal the cards out, and then you have to try to get them to pick that row by doing the way I said. If they pick the 2 rows, you take those off. You can come up with your own ways to get them to think that that's the row that they picked. So that's called the 4 aces trick. The second trick, and by the way, most magicians don't reveal their secrets, so I'm doing something special just for the Roseville Public Library. The second trick is, this is one of the greatest tricks I've ever seen, and it's so simple. It's not really mathematical, but it involves doing one thing. You hand the deck to the person who you're showing the trick to. You let them shuffle as much as they want. They like that because they think, oh my gosh, they're shuffling and they're mixing up the cards, and so they shuffle, and as soon as they hand you the cards back, you straighten the cards out like that by hitting it on the table. And when you do that, you just for a millionth of a second, you look at the bottom card. That's all. Okay, so I saw the bottom card was the 6 of spades. I'm going to tell you. All right, I know where one card is in this deck. There's 52 cards here. Don't lose track of that card. What was the card again? 6 of spades, right? It's on the bottom. They don't know that you know that. But here's what we're going to do. We'll drop the cards down, and we're really going to make a mess of things. But we're going to keep track of the bottom card. But we're going to really mess, here's the bottom card right there, really mess things up so that it's really, like, it looks like, you know, it's a mess. There's 52 cards. But we still know where what card is, the 6 of spades. We know where the 6 of spades is. They don't know that we know that. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to see if that person is a magician just like you are. And we're going to ask them to point to the card that they think is the 6 of spades. Now you know where the 6 of spades is, right? It's right here. But they don't know that you know that. If by some miracle they point to the 6 of spades, and it happened to be once many years ago, if they come over and go, that card, well, you know that's the 6 of spades. You turn that over, and they think you're the greatest magician of all time. Because how could, or that they're the greatest magician of all time. How could they possibly do that? But you cannot obviously repeat the trick because they'll figure it out. So I'm going to ask you to point to the card that you think is the 6 of spades. They're not going to get it right, are they? They're going to point to some other card like that one. I don't really look at it very carefully. I just kind of go like this. I tap it down, but I look in to see what card it is, okay? But I don't want them to see. I don't want to go like this and say, okay, I'm looking at the card. You just kind of put it in your hand, and while you do, you look at it. By the way, the card was the Ace of Hearts. Now I'm going to ask you, but I don't say that out loud to my audience usually. I'm going to ask you to point to the card you think is the Ace of Hearts. Okay, so they go around like this. Now, by the way, if they point to the 6 of spades, remember that we know where that one card is, you have a miracle, because you have the 6 of spades and you have the Ace of Hearts. So it's a miracle. But they're not going to. So now they're pointing to the card they think is the Ace of Hearts. Let's say they point to this one right here. You briefly look at it. By the way, it was the 3 of spades. So we have the Ace of Hearts and the 3 of spades, right? Those are the 2 cards. They don't know what you have here at this point. The last thing you do is you say, I am going to pick the card that I think is the 3 of spades. Remember, you already have that in your hand, right? And I'm going to point to what card? I'm going to pick the 6 of spades, right? And I'm going to take that and put it in the pile. So you say, can you remember the 3 cards that we had? And they'll say 3 of spades, Ace of Hearts, and 6 of spades. It's one of the easiest tricks to learn how to do. All you have to do, believe me, if you practice this a few times, all you have to do is, I'll just show you real quickly one more time. All you have to do is, after the person's shuffled the deck, as many times as they want, you straighten the cards up and barely glimpse over at the cards. And I saw the 2 of spades was on the bottom. Spread the cards out as much as you want, but keep track of that card. If you lose track of that card, the trick's over, right? Because there's no way they're gonna pick the 3 right cards. So the 2 of spades is right here. So you have them pick a card, you say, pick the card you think is the 2 of spades. You look at it, you go, wow, that's really good. Now pick the card you think is the 4 of diamonds. Let's say they pick that one. That's really good. You guys are amazing. I'm going to pick the card I think is the 4 of spades. And then I pick a card. And you say, what were the 3 cards again? And the 3 cards were the 4 of diamonds, 4 of spades, and the 2 of spades. It's a miracle. It's a very simple trick. All it takes is remembering what the bottom card is and keeping it so that you can find it at any time that you want. Again, perhaps at another time we'll kind of go through some of the things. One of the most important things in doing card magic is you have to be able to shuffle the cards or cut the cards. Like I was showing you before, there's the Ace of Hearts on the top. This is called the rifle shuffle. That's the simplest one. You probably all know how to do that. You just wait, you make sure that card ends up on the top. This is a slow cut. This is a cut that looks like I'm cutting. I'll do it in slow motion. See the Ace of Hearts? Watch what I'm doing. I'm cutting the cards, but I'm taking the bottom out and then I push it in there and I put it back in the same place where it was. But if you do it fast enough, watch. It looks like I cut the cards, except the cards exactly in the same place. So there's a lot of different things like that. Some of them are in these books, Cool Card Tricks or Card Magic. If you're really interested, we have one called The Craft of Magic and one called The Complete Course in Magic. All this is at the Roseville Public Library, plus many, many more. This is about half of the books that we have on magic and card tricks. I think given the pandemic and we've watched all the Amazon shows and the Netflix shows, magic is a great way to have a lot of fun and you can entertain your friends. And I hope you enjoyed the show. And let us know with your comments if you'd like to see another one. And we really appreciate you joining us. Have a good day. Stay safe.